Hi everyone, my name is Charu Morgan and welcome. I'm experimenting with this podcast format. For the last 20 years, I have been teaching and coaching and supporting people in a realm that could be named Neo-Tantra, meaning embodiment practices, communication, and ultimately supporting people with relationships and intimacy and sexual aliveness, including that inside of our own bodies. So not limited to what happens for people who are in partnership. And one more small thing is that I really loved what I shared in this little clip, and the audio quality is not great. And my intention is to keep growing and getting better quality as I grow. So please bear with me, and I hope you can look past that and enjoy this podcast for the content. I was working with this beautiful couple who loves each other so much, and I just absolutely love working with them. And one of the assignments that I've given them is to set aside time. I give this to all couples. Please feel free to use it if it resonates for you, is to take at least 3 times a week, 5 to 15 minutes each time, as opportunities for connection. And at different points in the process of the work that we do together, I would say, different differing degrees of this being a sexual connection, but no matter what, it's not a time when you're watching Netflix. It's a time that is focused on connection. And I give lots of little simple exercises for what that might look like, how we're going to nourish these new kinds of connection as we open up our sexuality, our sexual connection in new ways. And one of the things that I had recommended for this couple, I often recommend this, was that at least 2 out of these 3 times where they're doing these connection practices that will definitely be about connecting and may have some sensuality involved, but do not have to, that 2 out of the 3 times they meet during a week, there would be 0 chance of it turning into sex or something highly sexual. And this couple, we were talking about it, and as we're talking about it, this was a heterosexual couple, and the man said, well, I don't even really think we need that guideline, because she knows that all she has to do is say, hey, I don't want to keep going, or that's not right for me, or any indicator. And even if I just feel something's not quite right and she's not totally present going forward, we'll stop. It doesn't matter if it's like just starting to get sexual, or if it's feeling, we're already like almost about to have sex, or even in the middle of sex. Anytime she knows that I would be happy to stop if all she has to do is say something that she's the least bit uncomfortable and I don't want to keep going. I want to honor that. And that, which I told him, is so beautiful. And not every partnership, and in this case I'm going to speak about a heterosexual partnership, like not every woman knows that there's that much care and permission, and that there will be no, guilt or anything put on her by her man if she needs to stop in the middle. And we could say this could maybe even go vice versa if the man needed to stop in the middle. I mean, it doesn't have to be about being a man or a woman. And also, so he's creating this incredibly safe container. Whatever you need, no matter what, I will always stop. If anything feels off, please just tell me. And first, I just honored that stance, which honestly should be the baseline for everyone in every relationship all the time. And it isn't. The reality is that isn't true for everyone. So incredible that that's the context that he's holding. And that's beautiful and really, really safe. And I'm really excited for her that she has that kind of safety and care. And then the other thing that I shared with them, was that is amazing. And when we are in a moment of maybe a possibility of sexual energy arising, especially if we feel it starting to arise in our partner, first of all, to even be able to identify that maybe it isn't feeling right for us, even just that might be hard for some of us in different contexts. Sexuality, things like that move so fast. It can often, and our minds are in lots of different places, it can often be difficult to even feel in the moment that something isn't quite right for our body. So even just feeling it, number one. Then number two, being able to feel like the momentum of the situation, especially if our partner has desire and is happy, is enjoying themselves, and we're feeling a no, and we're aware of that no, step one, being aware of it, to find and be able to actually say that no out loud and actually stop the momentum of the energy and risk disappointing our partner, even if they're the kindest partner on the planet. I mean, even just try to imagine that kind of scenario. I think I just think that for a lot of us, if we imagine that scenario, it's easy to see how that could be really hard to actually do in the moment. And how in that dynamic, even with all the permission, all the freedom in the world to say, hey, you know what, actually, I'm not really feeling this. Can we just stop? And knowing my partner's not going to be mad, there's not going to be any consequences, knowing that I'm safe in that way, even that puts a certain I want to say a certain amount of responsibility. In this case, it was the female partner. And I think there's lots of reasons culturally why it's interesting to look at this as this is the female partner and this is the male partner. I don't think it always has to be that way, but I think it's interesting to look at because I will just speak for myself as a woman who is enculturated to what it is to be a woman in this culture at this time in history. There are many layers of deep, deep things that I've been subtly taught by the culture that have become a part of me, whether I like it or not, even through my growth and awareness, that I am, and also because of my personal stories, traumas, familial relationships, the idea, let's even not say it's my partner, just the idea of letting someone down is very heavy in my body. The idea that I am supposed to manage the experiences of those around me, especially those that I care about and love, and make sure that they're well taken care of and that they're happy, is deeply enculturated in me. Also, this could be true for a man. I'm just sharing this human woman. And then we can also even go into this really deep cultural patterning of, passed from generation to generation to generation. If we think about as a woman, less than 100 years ago, to some degree, our survival would have been dependent on a male partner. That's not necessarily true for every woman, but we could not have our own credit card without a man signing off. We could not have our own property. This is not that long ago. So to some degree, built into just being born into this modern world and being enculturated as a woman and living as a woman there's some really deep barriers that are can be very invisible to taking a stand, especially to creating a barrier to making a choice that might make our partner disappointed, even just disappointed or uncomfortable or a little bummed out, even at the least amount, let alone risking in other partnerships, like maybe some anger. So there's really deep reasons why the difference between, we don't need to have containers where we know that we purposefully say won't turn into sex for connection, because I know my partner can say no at any time, is very different, because that's so much responsibility on her. Again, the sexes could be switched. In this case, I'm talking about her. That's so much responsibility on her to be the one to stop that train from going forward. That's actually quite a heavy weight. And if we're looking to create a circumstance, in this case for her, where she feels really safe to discover what she needs sexually in a new way, to feel a wide potential of opening, to allow her body to really blossom and flower in new ways that are not always interrelated with what her partner needs from her, then the container where she doesn't even have to think for 1 second that there might be a question of it becoming sexual, allows this deep breath of possibility, where she can start to feel things, even if those things are sexual and sensual, without feeling a quiet pressure that if this then turns him on, and then if I'm not turned on, then I have to be the one to put the brakes on. And once I explained it like that, he was amazing and very acknowledging of that being, yeah, I can feel the difference. And I guess that's something that I would pose to you is, can you feel the difference? Can you feel, can you get a taste for how that might change what opens in the body? And I think this is something that is, I personally think, I do not think that it is limited to what sex you are born into. I think that absolutely for men to experience new things, different awakenings and openings in their sexual experience, I also think taking that pressure off and having pockets of time that aren't about that is incredibly valuable and expansive. And I would say this is true for anyone of any sex on the spectrum. Again, just being clear that I happen to be speaking about a cis heterosexual couple. So, I guess as a takeaway, are there any times in your relationship that something to think about if you're wanting to enhance, improve, grow in your sex life, grow in your connection? Then one of my questions for you would be, 1, are you making time to nurture and nourish your connection, to focus on connection that isn't about sharing a meal and that isn't about watching something on a screen? Those things are good too. Just in addition, are you making time for these other things? And then, are you making time for those things where there might be a container, or can you consider making time for those things where there might be a container? Could you see the benefit of there being a container where you can allow sensuality, you can allow for arousal, you can nurture and nourish connection, and that we're in a bubble where there's no pressure and no possibility agreed on by both of you that it will turn into intercourse or cross over into that place where sensuality becomes sex. Just an interesting inquiry. Like, even what could that give you? I guess that's maybe more the inquiry, is like, what might it give you to have that kind of space? What might that give you? And then let me know. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, maybe give us 5 stars, write us a review, share an episode that you enjoyed with a friend. It really helps as I'm just beginning this process and getting things started. I'd love to get more people hearing this, becoming aware of this work. And if you're interested in learning about how I can support you with one-on-one work, or maybe joining us for a future couples retreat, you can get more information at charumorgan.com. That's CharumorGan.com. Thank you so much again for being here.